Chapter 7. Lexa freezes, takes hold of my arm and drags me back into the rooms we just passed. I cast a quick look around and recognize the bed and the table. It is the room I recovered in.
There has been a security breach,
Lexa says as she draws her sword from the sheath on her back and stands in a battle-ready stance.
Grab your gear.
The whole movement is so smooth and elegant, I can't help but stare in awe. I'm sure if I tried to do that, I would have cut off my ear. I have never pulled a weapon from a sheath before. All my weapons had always been handed to me bare. After a moment of appreciation, I remember I'm supposed to be collecting my gear. I rush over to my pack, stuff everything in it, and glance around the room. I wish I had my weapons, but it can't be helped. Lexa throws me silent glances, urging me to hurry. I fling my backpack across my shoulders and rush over to her. She raises her finger to her lips, and I quiet my breathing and movements. Lexa peers down the hall. Every one of her actions has a purpose, and I doubt she is the type to waste energy on something she doesn't believe is a genuine threat. Wariness seeps through me as the poison acid from the cerebi reminds me why I was bedridden for so many days. I shake my head to clear the fog settling there. Lexa steps out the doorway and runs down the empty corridor. I follow close on her heels. We run past dozens of rooms, and I peer into them as we sprint by. They are all empty, half-finished tasks left where owners left them in their hasty departure. I catch glimpses of steaming mugs and dropped items, ownless toys. Dread builds in the pit of my stomach, and I don't even know what I'm running from. We approach an intersection, and Lexa stops so suddenly I catapult right into the back of her. Receiving a face full of curly brown hair, I stumble over my own feet and windmill my arms around trying to regain my balance. Lexa's hand darts out, grabs a fistful of my shirt and stops me from falling on my backside. I scramble to regain my footing while Lexa effortlessly holds me up. It's like holding a grown woman with one arm is a task she does on a regular basis. My cheeks grow hot. I stare at my shirt fisted in Lexa's hand as she holds me still. I glance up to see her tilted head and quiet, measured breaths. I get the hint and breathe as quietly as I can. The floor beneath us rumbles, shaking as something very big gets closer. The pounding of footsteps becomes clearer, mixing in with the earth-shaking thumps. A tall man, a dark-haired woman, and 2 children round the corner and almost run into us. The man is wild-eyed as he pushes the children in front of him.
It's coming, run.
He turns and looks down the hall, seeing something we can't. His face pales and he pushes the woman away from him. She stumbles forward, landing on her knees as a huge beast barrels into the man, roughly throwing him into the wall. He hits it with a sickening crunch and falls to the ground limp. The woman screams and I clamp a hand around her mouth, cutting the sound short. The creature's ears twitch, but it is very focused on the man crumpled on the ground in front of it. Lexa and I round up the woman and children and push them into a small room nearby. The dark-haired woman pleads with Lexa, her tear-streaked cheeks reddening with distress.
Please, we have to go back and get Adran. First, we must get you and the children back to safety,
Lexa says calmly. The young girl, who cannot be older than 6, reaches up and grabs the woman's hand. The boy beside her looks to be the same age and has tears streaming down his face. That's when I realize they are twins.
Is Dar coming back?
The boy asks in a small voice, and my heart breaks a little. The woman seems to come to herself and crouches to hold the children in a tight embrace. I creep to the door and peer around the corner. The beast has its back to us. It is almost in front of the doorway, and wet rips of tearing flesh travel to my ears and sincerely make me doubt I want a close look at what is happening to Adran. Lexa leans around the corner beside me as the creature lets out a bellow that shakes the ground around my feet. An answering cry is heard in the distance, and the 2 rumble together for a time. The creature returns its scaled bronze head to its victim, and its long turquoise crest of spikes scrape the wall as it angles its head into a more efficient position. One of the horns is jagged and half the size of the others surrounding it. What could have snapped something that thick? We lean back and glance at one another. We have no hope of outrunning the beast. It is massive, and with the help of well-muscled legs, the creature will easily catch us if we try to run. How did something that big get inside the tunnels? It barely fits in the hallway. I don't see it crawling into such a small space out of curiosity. I glance back at the small family. We could try to wait the beast out, I suggest. Lexa shakes her head.
It's a chimera. Those horns are designed for digging, and its appetite is insatiable.
She lowers her voice.
Once it is done, it will find us.
I doubt we can outrun it, especially with the children, I muse. I glance at Lexa. If you give me one of your swords, I will distract it. Lexa presses her lips.
It will likely kill you.
I eye the creature. Perhaps not. I have fought creatures in the arena before, creatures specially bred for their relentless ferocity. At the very least, I will survive long enough for everyone to get away. With a deep breath, Lexa nods and draws a second sword from the sheath on her back. 2 swords, that's an unusual specialty. She offers the sword to me, and I take it and move it around experimentally. It is light and well balanced. She turns to face the family.
Get ready to run. Do not look back.
The woman nods and gathers her children, taking one of their hands in each of hers. Lexa draws her second sword, and I raise an eyebrow. She smirks.
You're not the only one who has fought beasts in the arena.
I cannot help but feel a strange sense of excitement at this declaration. I peer around the doorway and eye the bronze creature, its many large scales glinting in the light of the crystals. To slay it would require finding a way through the glinting armor of scales that cover the beast's entire body. That isn't going to be easy. Lexa rolls her shoulders.
It is best we kill it. We cannot let it get to the evacuation points. It could do serious damage.
I have to agree, and at the rate it is devouring its current victim, it won't be distracted for too much longer. We bring the family to the door, and I do my best to keep myself between them and the creature. They don't need to see what is happening.
Ready?
Lexa asks. The family nods and clutch one another tightly.
Go, now.
She yells, and together we charge forward, weapons ready. The small family runs down the hall as the beast raises its massive head and stares at us as if we are the intruders. 6 golden heads snake out from the main face like tentacles with viciously teethed mouths. It lets out a low rumble. The tiny heads stop devouring the poor father on the floor and gape at us. Bits of flesh still hang from their jaws as small yellow eyes assess the threat. Adran lays on the floor. His blue eyes stare lifelessly, accusingly towards us, his body a mangled mess. The giant animal lets out a bellow and charges towards us. The hallway is narrow and the beast takes up most of the room. Its horns scrape the dirt walls with each bound the creature makes. I rush forward and slide under the creature, trying to pierce through the scales on its stomach. To my surprise, my sword creates a series of sparks that ignite along the scales as I slide past. The creature charges over me, kicking up dust as it goes, ignoring me like I'm not even there. I roll in the dirt in time to see Lexa jump onto the beast's head. She lifts her sword and drops her body with it, attempting to bury her blade in the creature's head, but her sword just bounces harmlessly off the scales with a loud clang. Unlike me, though, the beast notices Lexa and shakes its head from side to side to try and dislodge its unwelcome rider. Lexa loses her sword when she is tossed around and scrabbles to her feet, crouching low as she holds onto the beast's horns as it attempts to displace her. It pushes her dangerously close to the ceiling, and she is forced to almost lay flat along the monster's head. Thick horns dig into the solid dirt walls, tearing the corridor apart. Chunks of earth rain on us, and dust creates a cloud that is hard to breathe in. The smaller heads join in the fight, snapping at her legs and ankles. Lexa drops into a crouch and is forced to remove a hand from the stabilizing horns and draw the dagger at her hip so she can fight the tiny heads. Lexa can't keep this up for long. I charge towards the beast, throwing myself under its body and wriggling forward, doing my best to avoid the stamping feet and flying chunks of dirt. I push myself out and stop below the creature's head. This time it does notice me. Its black eyes turn to ogle me, and it stops shaking its head, trying to figure out where I had come from. A tiny, severed head lands in the dirt near my head with a sickening thud, its lifeless yellow eyes staring at me. Its bloodied mouth gapes open in a silent scream. The severed stump reveals softer scales across the mutilated appendage, almost as if they are new, and hadn't had a chance to harden yet. The giant beast lets out a mighty bellow, and I scramble to get out from under it. It shakes its head, thrashing from side to side, tearing holes in the walls with its crest. The thrashing frees Lexa's grip, and she slips and is pinned to the wall in between two massive horns. The broken horn I noticed earlier pokes dangerously close to Lexa's sternum, its wickedly jagged edge inching closer and closer. Her feet scrabble for purchase against the beast's head, and she pushes herself as far away from the spike as the wall will allow her. I grab a fistful of dirt and throw it into the beast's eyes. It bellows, and I have a front row seat to the inside of the massive mouth lined with fist-sized teeth. I thrust the sword upwards with all my strength, piercing its soft palate. My sword sinks to the hilt in the beast's brain, and I twist the blade, ensuring its end is quick. I stare at my arm, surrounded by jagged teeth, and try not to think about what would happen if the giant mouth closed. I pull the sword from the beast and step back as the creature crumples. Lexa is still trapped within the massive horns that are embedded in the wall around her. The way the monster is going down is causing deep cracks to spread along the wall like a web. I watch in horror as the wall breaks into chunks and cracks sprawl across the roof. They spread faster than water rushing down a smooth hill. The beast is going down, and it's going to take the wall and Lexa with it. She struggles with the horns and does her best to twist out of them, but nothing works. My eyes meet Lexa's.
Run!
She shouts as she tries to wriggle free of her prison. Huge chunks fall from the ceiling around us, landing with a resounding boom, and the floor shudders with each impact. I shake my head and climb the beast's head, dodging falling rocks until I reach Lexa. Gripping the horns and bracing my feet on the wall, I push with all my strength, tugging on the massive beast's head. I growl in frustration. I don't have the strength for this. My eyes dart to the broken horn nestled between the two, pinning Lexa to the rock. The spike slowly inches closer to Lexa's chest as the rock behind her starts to break free. I leap onto the beast's head and hack at the horns, trying to cut through the one near Lexa's chest. If I remove it, then maybe Lexa can wriggle free. I cut halfway through and my sword gets wedged in the horn. I tug, but it's stuck fast. Desperately, I kick at the horn and it starts to give. One last vicious kick snaps the horn in two. Lexa wriggles free from her trap as the roof loses its battle with gravity. She takes hold of my waist and jumps off the beast's head, narrowly missing a massive chunk of roof as it falls where we stood moments before. We turn in midair and land heavily on the ground. Lexa rolls on top of me, straddling my hips, and attempts to shield me from the falling rocks. A large rock strikes her shoulder with a noise that makes me cringe, as if I were the one who took the hit. A gasp escapes Lexa, and her mouth sets in a hard line as the force of the impact pushes her towards me. Our bodies meet, her cheek brushes mine, and a rush of energy flows through me. A bright blue light emanates from under my armor. We stare at the light in confusion, and I reach into my top and pull out my mother's necklace. Blue light flows from the necklace and spreads over our bodies. The falling rocks bounce off the light and land harmlessly on the ground around us. The shimmering around us isn't stable. It flickers, and small stones fall in through the gaps forming in the light. A green light pours from Lexa's top, and she reaches into it and pulls out a necklace like mine. Instead of blue, hers is deep emerald green. I don't miss the fact it is the same color as her eyes. Lexa inches our glittering gems closer and takes hold of my hand. The light that explodes from the jeweled necklaces is blindingly white. I close my eyes and turn away, but the light pierces my closed eyelids, creating an explosion of color. The light dulls, and I open my eyes to see a dancing wall of green and blue light. A deafening boom resounds through the chaos of falling rocks, and a massive section of roof drops down and hits the light above us. It sits there for a moment, and I stare at it in disbelief. The chunk of rock is bigger and thicker than I am. After a moment, it slowly slides off the light to land beside us with a crash that vibrates the ground. A cloud of dust rises, making it impossible to see anything but the shimmering light and the darkness that attempts to swallow it. "We need to move," I shout over the noise of destruction around us. Alexa glances down at our hands, her face reflecting my thoughts. How are we going to move without breaking the connection between our necklaces?
Couple onto me and keep the necklaces together.
Lexa orders and scoops me up in her arms. The movement surprises me, and I fumble with the necklaces for a moment, causing our light to flicker for a heartbeat. I throw my arm around Lexa's neck and hold the necklaces together with my hand. Lexa runs, dodging fallen rocks as she sprints out of the corridor that could have easily become our tomb. After a few minutes, the roofing stabilizes and Lexa slows her run. Coming to a stop, she lowers me to the ground, and for a moment we stand close. Lexa clears her throat and steps back, breaking our contact, and the light wall around us shimmers and fades. Shouting fills the darkness, and a flickering light creeps into the hall not too far from where we stand. I shove my necklace under my vest.
Here you are, Lexa,
Shouts a female voice as the flaming torches cast their lights on us. This voice belongs to a short blonde woman wearing a lot of belts. Seriously, every available space is filled with various objects. I can't help but think, whatever this woman is doing, she is certainly ready for it.
Hello, Tash.
Lexa greets with a warm smile and takes the short woman's forearm in her grip. Tash glances over our battered appearances.
what happened?
A chimera caused a cave-in.
Lexa replies.
Organize a team to stabilize the roof as soon as possible. We do not need it to spread.
Tash runs her hands through her short hair.
Should we not first send a team to kill the chimera?
Lexa shakes her head.
No need. Claire killed it.
Tash seems to notice me for the first time. She raises her eyebrows.
That's impressive.
She turns back to Lexa and begins reporting to her. I look over this new woman as she fills Lexa in on what happened during our absence. A brand sits across the woman's right cheek. 3,871, with the symbol of a spanner under it. This woman had once been a slave too, an engineer if I'm correct. It is hard to be sure, as most engineers lived closer to Emperor Darkmor's free citizens in order to maintain their machines day and night. Lexa rattles off a few commands, and people around her hurry off to do her bidding.
As it seems we are now safe, I believe introductions are necessary.
Lexa stands between myself and Tash.
Tash, this is Claire. Claire, this is Tash.
I step forward and grasp Tash's arm. Thanks for fixing my armor. I say and gesture to it, noticing a tear through the leather near my shoulder for the first time. I'm afraid I may have already ruined all your hard work,
Maybe next time I should make you fix it.
Tash says with a smile.
And perhaps it will last more than a few hours.
I consider her suggestion. I don't know if it would help. I seem to have developed an awful habit of ending up in life or death situations. Tash removes a water canteen from one of her many belts and hands it to me.
Sounds unhealthy. Have you tried giving it up?
I take the canteen and reply, yeah, but I seem to relapse back into old habits. Then before I know it, I end up scared to death and having to fight to save my skin all over again. Tash smiles and turns to Lexa.
I like this one. Can we keep it?
Lexa gives us a small smile that transforms her face.
I don't know, she eats a lot.
And I snore, I add.
Yeah, and I suppose she does have that awful life or death habit.
Tash concludes. Lexa nods, her face solemn, and Tash snorts in laughter. Nathaniel jogs into view, a group of people with him. He approaches Lexa and reports.
There has been a tunnel collapse in the east wing, and 2 chimeras have been spotted, one in the north wing and another in the west.
Lexa nods.
The beast in the north wing is dead.
Nathaniel pauses for a long moment before grunting.
Good.
Why did they get in here?
Lexa asks.
None of our entrances are big enough for creatures like that to just walk in.
Nathaniel stands a little taller.
The west side entrance has been blown apart.
Lexa rubs her head.
Chimeras are not capable of using explosives.
The dead gods we found near the entrance are.
Nathaniel adds.
The fools believed they could control a pair of chimeras.
I suspect Emperor Darkmor had a hand in this.
Lexa glances around the people in the hall.
Where is the second beast?
We believe we have it cornered in the east wing living quarters.
Nathaniel reports. Lexa nods.
Take a group of engineers with you. I want the west side entrance sealed. It cannot be allowed to remain open.
Tash steps forward and says,
I recommend a reinforcement of the tunnel. It would also be best to use some of our own explosives to trigger a rockfall to seal the entrance.
Tash pauses and Lexa nods for her to continue.
I recommend Lucas head the team. He has invaluable knowledge of explosives.
Lexa nods.
See that it is done.
Tash moves, but Lexa halts her with a further question.
Where is Anne?
At the main evacuation point, we are in the process of moving everyone there.
Tash returns to her task and Lexa lets out a small breath before she turns to Nathaniel.
I want 20 well-armed rebels to go with you and lock this creature in the East Wing. I will organize a team of animal workers to devise the best way to dispose of the creature. They are not easy to kill.
Nathaniel nods, turns on his heel and strides down the hall. Lexa calls over a small group of people, organizes them, and sends them off into the tunnels to look for anyone who didn't make it to the evacuation points. She's preparing to join a search party herself when Tash stops her.
Lexa, the people are uneasy and would greatly benefit from seeing you alive and well. Your presence will do more to boost morale than my words ever could.
Lexa considers Tash's words, and her eyes show the internal battle raging in her mind as she makes her decision. A moment passes, and Lexa nods. Tash leads us down the corridor. I trail behind them, trying to ignore the burning pain in my chest from my aggravated arena injuries. Bright red spots of blood sneak out from under my bracer. Dirt coats my skin, and I shake my head. So much for keeping it clean. The throbbing in my arm is a familiar burn that can only mean one thing. My stitches have ripped. Sighing, I make a mental note not to fight any more monsters until I feel better. My forearm hurts and I lift the sleeve of my shirt to see what I have done to it, and a flash of blue catches my attention. I stop and stare at my arm. 3 blue lines intersect and glow against my skin, the same color as the light my necklace had created. I rub my skin and pain flares as my fingers brush the lines. Warmth spreads through my fingers and I pull them back. Sharp pain prickles behind my eyes and slows my thoughts. What is this? My eyes flick over to Lexa, who has stopped just ahead and quietly speaks with Tash. Has this happened to Lexa? I search her exposed skin with my eyes and find nothing. Lexa calls out to me.
Claire, are you coming?
Yes, I call back. I hastily pull my sleeve down so it hides the blue marks. I hiss softly as the lines burn with the contact from the bracer. The women in front of me turn into a doorway filled with light, and the sounds of chatter drift from the open door. I catch up with the 2 women, and together we step into the room. And that's the end of Chapter 7 of Katera Rising. If you're enjoying the journey so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a chapter. New episodes release every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This chapter was intense. We faced a massive chimera. Lexa and Claire barely made it out alive, and we got a glimpse into the strange magic of their necklaces. What do you think this glowing energy means for Claire? And why do her markings match the light? Let me know your theories in the comments. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next chapter.